You are listening to One Nation Under Crime, a chronological true crime podcast. Each week, we go through our nation's history and discuss one case from each year, starting in 1800. I'm Kayla.
And I'm Leah.
And now we're to episode 9. We're almost to the double digits. Woo-hoo! This is exciting, guys.
It is.
Y'all have gotten us all the way to the double digits.
And it's a multiple of 3.
I love it. It is a multiple of 3. Go back to episode 7, guys, if you're not aware. But yeah, this is an exciting. We've gotten a big jump of listeners lately, and we've gotten a lot of you in different countries.
This is really exciting.
It is. Today, episode 8 came out, and we have our first listener in Vienna, Austria. So hello.
Hi.
And that's very exciting. We now have, if you look at the United States, we now have listeners in all of the southern half of the United States.
Not just the southern states.
Not just the southern states. Well, we need Kentucky. But Kentucky's always kind of, is it south? Is it not? Mason-Dixon line? Not really. But if you look at it, we have all of the southern half of the United States. So I just want to know where the Midwest is. What are y'all doing? Do y'all not like it? Do you not love us? I need to know. I don't want to know if you don't love me, though. I just need you to like the podcast.
I mean, I think we're a delight. I'm just saying.
So, yeah, we've gotten a lot more listeners. We got our first Scottish listener.
And it's not my cousin. I asked, I sent him a message, and I was like, hey, Blair, is this you? And he's like, no, it's not me. So we may have another Scottish listener because I asked him. He's like, oh, well, I'll listen to it.
Well, we haven't had anybody else in Scotland, but whoever is in Scotland downloaded several of our episodes already. So it's so exciting. We have all of these listeners. We now have like a pretty good bit in England. We've got, like I said, we've got Austria. We've got a lot of the United States. So many people are finding us, and we just appreciate it so much. Y'all are clearly supporting us and clearly telling other people about us, and keep it up.
Find us delightful as well.
Yes, please find us delightful. We would love for you to do that. And we're trying to make our way to CrimeCon 2022. So recently, CrimeCon dates were announced. And if y'all aren't aware, CrimeCon is kind of like the convention for all things crime, Oxygen, podcasts, investigation, discovery, Dateline, all of those things will be there. It's going to be in Las Vegas. This is not an ad. We are not sponsored by CrimeCon. I would love for us to be in CrimeCon. Please accept us on Podcast Row. But we, all of those dates were announced recently, and so we are trying to plan to see if we're going to be able to make it. We're really hoping that we are. It is if you are interested in getting tickets, I know tickets have gone on sale, and there are a few other podcasts that I think already have discount codes for it. So go search for them, because I know tickets are not super cheap. But it's in Las Vegas, and there's plenty to do. I've never been. Heard it's a lovely, quiet town. So, if that's something you want to do, I believe it's April. I think it's the very end of April. It's the last weekend in April. I think the 28th, and it goes to May 1st, something like that, somewhere in there. But it starts on a Friday and ends on a Sunday. So, and I think they might have some events that come in on Thursday. I think some people that show up a little early.
There's not much to do in that city, so
it's a sleepy town. Yeah. It'd be really nice if
real quiet.
It like hit the big time there. I mean, it's a shame, really. So yeah, we are into episode 9, and Leah doesn't know what case we're covering this week.
I do not, but she did tell me it has to do with Scottish people, which piques my interest.
Yes, it is. It does have to do. We have 3 Scotsmen in our case today, but it actually relates back to a question that Leah asked in episode 7.
What?
It does. So,
foreshadowing, and I didn't even know.
I know. So Leah asked back in episode 7, if someone is sentenced to be hanged, why are you sentenced to be hanged till death?
Oh.
So this week we are covering James McLean for the year of 1807, or better known as the man hanged twice.
Did you know this when I asked that question?
I didn't.
That would have been so mean if you
I had another case. Well, and what's funny is I didn't, even when I might have, I'm not sure, but I had another case lined up for this week, and I wasn't feeling it. It was just one of those that I just really didn't feel into it. And I know that sounds really bad, but there wasn't a lot of information, and it was just kind of,
you weren't connecting.
Yeah, it was just really kind of hard to find a lot on, and you know, kind of other than this person died. That was really all that I could find. So I found this case, and I found it. I was going to say, because me and my boyfriend were looking for cases, because I told him, I was like, I don't like the case I chose for this year. Like,
you mean Claire did not come through for you?
Look, our research assistant, she needs to be fired. We've already discussed this. You know, just saying. But, so yeah, we're going to cover James McLean, the man who was hanged twice, and we'll get into why that happened.
Who was hanged twice.
Yes. So we're going to go ahead and go to our sources this week. I don't even need to say it anymore. Wikipedia, great resource for all things. One of them, a website that I found, was called correctionhistory.org. And they actually had a few different articles on this one. So that was super helpful. Executed Today, always a fantastic site. Hello, NSA agent Brad. Nice to see you again, spying on me this week.
So I have a quick question.
Yes.
Correction Today, is that like correctional facilities? Is that what that's about?
No, it just says correction history. It might be. I don't think it's about correctional facilities. It's kind of sounds like correcting.
Like correcting
false
mistakes.
Information is kind of what it seemed like to me. Because the articles kind of tracked in that way of like...
Well, but there were a couple of directions it could go, so I wasn't sure.
Which I'll get to a fun fact in with the history of the correctional system that you'll find real interesting. But
okay.
So the Daily News Online had a really good article that was called Convicted Murderer James McLean was hung not once but twice. Genesee County local history page. All of this took place in Genesee County. And then this really great book. It was online, and it's about 155 pages, but I don't think it's anything that was actually published. I think it was just something that came out. But it's by Rob R. Thompson, and it is a compilation of public executions in Genesee County. You know my sense of humor, and I love the name of this compilation very much.
Oh, dear.
So a compilation of public executions at this time. The only appropriate name, of course, is Swinging in the Rain.
That's so bad. That's so bad, but I do kind of love it.
I mean,
we share the dark humor.
Do.
I mean,
we do.
There was a meme that I shared with Kayla earlier, and it was Mufasa, and it says,
"The only cat that couldn't land on his feet."
Yes.
Oh God.
I mean,
so yeah, we get that. We get that humor. Yeah. But yes, it's called Swinging in the Rain. So
Swinging in the Rain.
I couldn't stop laughing. So we're going to get to the events that happened in 1807 to kind of... She's going to laugh about this all day, guys.
It was residual. I apologize.
So February 10th of 1807, the United States Coast Survey was established, and that, as it kind of states, it is what helped survey the coast to show kind of what the map of the United States actually is. It kind of helped survey all of the land down the coast. February 19th, former Vice President of the United States, Aaron Burr, was arrested on charges of treason. He was accused of plotting to annex parts of Louisiana and Mexico to become a part of an independent republic. Go back to episode 6. We briefly covered it. He was arrested in Alabama. So,
and fun fact, the best man in my brother's wedding is from Washington County, where he was arrested.
So March 2nd, the United States Congress passed an act to prohibit the importation of slaves into any port or place within the jurisdiction of the United States from any foreign kingdom, place, or country. And this would actually take effect in 1808, but it was passed in 1807. August 17th, the Clermont, Robert Fulton's first American steamboat, left New York City for Albany on the Hudson River, inaugurating the first commercial steamboat service in the world.
Ooh.
September 1st, Aaron Burr is acquitted for treason. And then December 2nd, the U.S. Congress passed the Embargo Act. So that kind of lets you know kind of what was going on at that time. This is when Thomas Jefferson and George Clinton are still the president and vice president. So kind of lets you know what's going on in the U.S. at that time. So as we get into our story, March 16th of 1807, James McLean murdered William Orr and Archibald McLaughlin with an axe. August 28th, 1807, due to a series of events, James McLean becomes known as the man who was hanged twice.
What a way to be known.
Mm-hmm.
Wow.
Mm-hmm. So our story this week takes place in Genesee County. There's a reason that I did it for the whole county and not a specific city. And you'll find out later, it kind of took place over the county due to what happened after the murders.
Dun, dun, dun.
So Genesee County in far west New York State was founded in March of 1803. So right before this happened, when the counties were originally established in the mid-1600s, it was originally a part of Albany County, which is where Albany, New York is. It wasn't until 1772 that Albany County, which took up a major majority of the state, split up into 3 separate counties, which then made Genesee County, I think it's Tryon County, but then it later turned to Montgomery County, and Albany County remained. So Genesee County originally started out at so this is going to kind of get into some numbers but stick with me because this kind of tells you how much land there were in these areas and how far it kind of got dwindled down. Genesee County originally started out at 7,100 square miles.
Okay.
Would you like for 100, Alex, to guess how many acres that is?
You're asking me math?
I know. It's a big number. I'll give you that hint. It's a big number.
I don't know.
It's not 5,000.
It's not 5,000. Is it higher or lower than 5,000?
Way higher.
I figured it was higher. I sounded stupid with that question. 20,000.
4.5 million acres.
I don't math.
So this was in 1803 that it was 4.5 million acres. It slowly dwindled down to 5,500 square miles, then to 1,600, then 1,400, then down to 1,030. And it finally ended up as a county that is 500 square miles or 320,000 acres.
Nice.
Yes. So it went from 4.5 million acres down to 320,000. Part of that land is home to the Iroquois National Wildlife Refuge and the Tonawanda Reservation.
Currently?
Yeah.
Okay.
So that is where it's the Towanda Seneca Nation of tribe of Indians.
Towanda?
Towanda. That's what it says.
Have you seen fried green tomatoes?
Yeah, it's been a long time, but yes.
Towanda! Okay, sorry. Continue.
So fun fact, there is a town in Genesee County named Alabama. So nice little fact to it. In the 1820s, the Morgan Affair took place, where a man named William Morgan disappeared after he was imprisoned for failure to pay a debt. At this time, Freemasons were very prevalent in the area. In fact, half of the county officials were Freemasons. Morgan had tried to join the Masons and was rejected and threatened to publish a book exposing the Freemasons and their practices.
And where they hid the treasure.
Yes, obviously. And we actually, because I have all the cases planned out for the rest of the year, we will actually cover the case of William Morgan when we get to the 1820s. We will cover his case. So I didn't want to say too much about it. So, all right, we're going to get to our case this week. And this week, our case starts with a tree.
A tree.
A tree. A real tree. Trees at this time were kind of used for a few different reasons. Warmth and firewood was not really where they were aiming for. A lot of time they were used to connect fences, to make a shelter against, and to mark lot lines.
Mm-hmm. Very common.
Yes. So it wouldn't be uncommon for disputes to begin over a disgruntled neighbor or an outsider cutting down a tree used by another landowner. But a lot of them didn't end up in murder like this one.
Mm.
Our story begins on March 16th, 1870, with 3 Scotsmen, James McLean, William Orr, and Archibald McLaughlin. It was very important, apparently, to note at this time that day drinking was a very common pastime in the area.
Wait, is that 2021?
Yes. Yeah.
Okay.
Day drinking.
Okay.
Not just drinking water during the day. Like drinking during the day.
I'm just saying.
Mm-hmm. So
not that we're not doing that now. I have my cranberry juice and water.
It's earlier in the day, so no, I'm not.
Yeah. You've got an Arby's cup over there.
I got some sweet tea right now.
There you go.
One story relating to these 3 men is that they were drinking at Caledonia Springs, or more commonly referred to as the Springs. All 3 of the men were squatters on the land and really didn't have any true claim to it. This area was referred to as the 40,000 acre tract. And according to one account, all 3 of the men were road workers clearing land to build the new Duncan McColl's Road. Today, it's now, I think it's called Graney Road, Graney, in Genesee County. So these men, it said that they were all road workers there to clear the land.
So they were laborers.
Mm-hmm. It was when the men were headed back that McLean started an argument with Orr over a fallen whitewood tree. Most sources say this would probably be a tulip tree. McLean claimed Orr had cut down the tree on his property he claimed while they were working on the road project.
But wait, they didn't have a claim to any of the property.
Correct. They were squatters.
Okay. Just making sure I heard that. Okay.
So Archibald McLaughlin was walking down ahead of them in the road. He heard the argument, and when he turned around and saw McLean raise an axe over his head, McLean struck Orr 4 times.
Ooh.
So there's not really a big trigger warning for this episode because all I'm really going to do is just say what the injuries are. And they're not real brutal.
Just an axe.
Yeah, I mean, we've obviously our stories haven't gone well with axes so far. But anyway, I'm that to say there's not really a trigger warning because I'm not going to go into like an autopsy or anything like that. That's going to be real detailed, in a description or anything. So, like I said, when McLaughlin heard the argument, he turned around and saw McLean raise an axe over his head. McLean struck Orr 4 times, once in his left shoulder, once in his left side, and 2 fatal strikes to his throat. McLaughlin ran to Orr's side, and as Orr lay dying on the ground, yelled at McLean for attacking. All this did was just make McLean even more outraged, and he attacked McLaughlin. killing him as well with a blow to McLaughlin's upper back, cutting him, quote, down to the very heart.
Ew.
Donald McCole was clearing brush near the new road in front of his family's cabin. So he was just kind of near the road, was minding his own business. And apparently McLean looked up and saw him and was going to go towards him to attack him as well. Donald ran to McLean, grabbed the axe, and Donald was quick and he was able to outrun McLean. Donald hid the axe and ran his way 3 miles down the road to alert the other citizens of what had happened.
What had happened was...
His mother, Miss McCole, was outside the cabin when she witnessed the crime and the aftermath of her son wrestling the axe away from McLean. She ran into her home, slammed the door, and stayed inside until help arrived.
Could you imagine being that mom, watching your son wrestle an axe away from a man that you know has just killed 2 other men?
Absolutely not.
How terrifying would that be?
That's awful. Like, I could not imagine that. That's insane.
Goodness.
Yeah. And I mean, and then too, to be Donald standing on the side of the road, just like doing his daily chores. And then, oh, hey, I need to run.
Yeah. Oh, wait, he's too close.
I gotta go.
Guess I'm going to try to get the axe and hey, hope I'm fast enough. Wow.
Mm-hmm.
How old was he? Do we know how old he was?
He was young. He was living at home still at the time, so it's likely that he was younger, probably in his teens, I think is what I saw.
Mm-hmm. That's scary.
So researcher Roger Larson said, quote, James McLean was described as a drunken Scottish immigrant who axed to death a fellow squatter in an argument, and then a second man who ran to the victim's aid. The area was comprised of 2 distinct Scot immigrant societies considered either legal or illegal landowners. Certain property had been purchased outright by the newly arrived Scot faction known as the Inverness Group, which is the Highlands of northeast Scotland, while the other Scot immigrant society, known as the Perthshire Group, County Perthshire in central Scotland, had arrived and settled sometime earlier on the lands known as donation lands. So,
I've been to both places, by the way.
Oh, aren't you just fancy?
They're beautiful.
As soon as the town was made aware of the attack, Judge Ezra Platt rounded up the militia to hunt McLean down. I know we discussed a militia in our Purrington episode, which came out today, kind of how Purrington was ahead of the militia in that area. So we're going to dive deeper into what a militia actually is. And yeah, I'll have some disclaimers in a little while, but
okay.
As defined by Wikipedia, a militia is generally an army or some other fighting organization of non-professional soldiers, citizens of a country, or subjects of a state who may perform military service during a time of need, as opposed to a professional or regular full-time military personnel. Essentially, self-appointed citizen soldiers.
Right. And they bring whatever weapons they may have.
Mm-hmm. So many times a militia is called in when there's a need to protect a community beyond the reach of the police. Mm-hmm. At this time, each state had maintained a militia differently, and certain areas had a larger presence of a militia than others. It also wasn't uncommon for them to back up the military in fighting and to, quote, conduct irregular warfare. Basically, we can go ahead and fight outside the confines of the law.
Ooh.
That was in this time. Just going to go ahead and say that. In the colonial era, every able-bodied man of a certain age was required to be a member of the militia. The Militia Act of 1903, almost 100 years after this case happened, is still used today to describe the two types of classes of militia in the United States today. The first being the organized militia. This includes state defense forces, the National Guard, and the naval militia. So the National Guard is actually a militia by definition. The second is the unorganized militia. This would be the reserve militia, which can be formed by a group of any able-bodied men between the ages of 17 and 45 who are not members of the State Defense Forces, National Guard, or naval militia.
Interesting.
Yes.
I always think of the Patriot when I think of a militia. Well, because he was the leader of the militia.
Yeah.
It was a good movie.
So this is where my disclaimer is going to come in. All right. Before I begin, I want to make it immensely clear that these descriptions are solely based off of my research, and I am not accusing or attacking any organization. Any misstep or false information I say is solely just a research fault of my own and not a representation of these organizations in and of themselves. So.
That was a let the record show.
Yes. You'll see why. In 2016, the Southern Poverty Law Center, or the SPLC, identified a total of 165 armed militia groups within the United States. This was in 2016.
Ooh.
165. As of 2020, there are 4 groups who have national presence versus a statewide presence that a majority of the militia are known for. I'm going to say a word in a moment. If you do not want your child to hear this word, skip forward about 15 seconds.
Is it a word that I don't like?
Yep.
It's a word that you don't like, too.
I don't not like it.
Oh, dear.
So, here we go. These 4 groups are the Constitutional Sheriffs and Peace Officers Association, the Oath Keepers, the 3 Percenters, and the Not Fucking Around Coalition.
Oh, that's the word.
Or the NFAC. So, and I'll refer to them for the rest of the time as the NFAC. A lot of these militias are synonymous with far-right beliefs. This is wrong and also a little right in some instances. So, the Constitutional Sheriffs and Peace Officers Association is comprised of local police officials in the United States whose core beliefs are that the federal and state government authorities are subpar to local authority. They believe that sheriffs have the highest governmental authority and hold the power to disregard laws they deem unconstitutional. The Oath Keepers are known as a, quote, American far-right anti-government militia organization. This group is comprised of current and former military police and first responders who pledge to uphold the oath all military and police take to, quote, defend the Constitution against all enemies, foreign and domestic. It's said that they encourage their members to disobey orders that are believed to be a violation of the U.S. Constitution. The 3 Percenters. They are actually American and Canadian, but they are far right and they are an anti-government militia movement. They are strong advocates for gun ownership rights and resistant to the U.S. federal government. The name 3 Percenters comes from the claim, quote, the active forces in the field against the king's tyranny never amounted to more than 3% of the colonists. The Canadian portion of the group was created by a former neo-Nazi, and the Quebec government considers it, quote, the most dangerous extremist group in Canada.
A former neo-Nazi.
Yes, in
nice.
Canada. This year, February 21st of 2021, the leadership of the 3 Percenters dissolved the American group due to the storming of the United States Capitol, and they condemned the violence. And it was just last month, in June of 2021, 6 men who were part of the group were indicted for conspiracy, and Canada officially declared the group a terrorist entity. Now the last group. Or the Not Around Coalition, the NFAC. So some people in the area might remember kind of last year when there was a group of, it is a group comprised of Black nationalists. And this was the group that I think they went to Stone Mountain last year. It was real big on the news. They were at Stone Mountain, and people were like, they were walking around with guns and blah, 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 and they were going to do this and that. This was that group. However, I don't
remember the name.
Yeah. They couldn't say it on the news. I remember that. So this is said to be a Black nationalist paramilitary group. They are advocates for Black liberation and separatism. It has been described by news outlets as a, quote, Black militia. Don't love the way they're saying that, but okay. But this militia denies any connection or inspiration from the Black Panther Party or the Black Lives Matter movement. They say they are not a part of it. So, again, all of this is solely based on what I read and the research I did. This is not a full representation of each group, and don't come for me in our emails or our direct messages on Instagram, Twitter, or Facebook. Thank you. That'll be all. Because I know that can be polarizing. I know a lot of people have their own opinions on the militia. I have zero opinion. I am just the facts, ma'am.
These were just descriptions.
Just like Dragnet. Just the facts, ma'am.
There you go.
That's it. That's all I went off of. This is what I could find. This is what I found. Now, whether those sources were saying it negatively, couldn't tell you, just what I know. Back to the story. Now we know what a militia is.
Here you go.
The more you know with the rainbow. Reading Rainbow.
Different show, different thing.
It came on during that time.
Well, but one is a PSA.
I know, but I would always see it when I did after school care in elementary school. We would always watch Reading Rainbow.
Yes, but that's Butterfly in the Sky.
Oh, I'm well aware.
I can go twice as
used to
take a look. Reading Rainbow.
There's y'all's segue from militias back to our murder story.
You're welcome. But you don't have to take my word for it. Oh, how about that?
You remember Wishbone?
Yeah, I used to show that to my class.
Fletcher looks like Wishbone.
He's a little bit bigger than Wishbone. I said it.
How dare she?
I said it.
Well,
I ain't gonna lie.
Looks like one of the mascots is going to be taking over the co-host position.
Fletcher loves me.
So back to our story. Judge Ezra Platt called on the town militia to go after James McLean.
Uh-oh.
It would be 3 weeks until McLean came out of hiding.
Where'd he hide?
We'll see.
Oh, good. I'm glad we get to know.
The night of the crime, McLean hid in a hollow log until daylight. He eluded search parties and survived off of the food that his mother was secretly leaving for him in different areas.
Wait a minute. Who was hiding?
McLean.
Okay. So his mother was there?
His mother was taking food kind of to the edge of the woods where she thought he was and taking him food.
Okay. Because for a second there, I got confused that it was the boy that had...
No, that's Donald.
Because when you said his mother, because for some reason I was just thinking that he was like there. Okay.
No, yeah. So James McLean, the murderer, his mother, was kind of coming.
I didn't picture him as having his mother with him. Yeah. Well, when you said that he was in a hollow tree, it made me think of Enchanted, perhaps.
Oh yeah,
a hollow tree. Continue.
So.
Sorry. I'm on cold medicine.
Yes.
Sorry, guys.
McLean slept in logs around the area each night, and a large reward was offered for his capture, whether he was dead or alive. McLean finally exited the woods and went to a tavern in Canandaigua. It does not look like it is said. I had to make sure that was correct. So it's Canandaigua is the town in which the tavern that he went to. He took a spot at the bar and quickly noticed the wanted poster at the end of it.
Ugh.
The landlady noticed him nervously glancing back and forth to the poster, and she recognized him based on his description from the officials.
Yeah, not a good idea to keep looking at the wanted poster that's describing yourself.
Yeah, and it was also said that McLean's fingertips went past his knees when his arms were at his side.
Oh, so he was kind of apish.
He was a very distinct looking man.
Yeah.
McLean was quickly arrested and then taken to the jail in Batavia. The investigation into William Orr's murder began once McLean was in custody. McLean was only charged with the murder of Orr and not for the murder of McLaughlin. There was some discussion as to whether Orr had actually killed McLaughlin or if McLean did.
Ooh.
So they kind of went off of, we know for sure he killed Orr. We're not 100% sure if he killed McLaughlin or could have done that to begin with. And then McLean could have killed Orr because he killed McLaughlin. So they didn't really know because there were 3 men at the time. And it seemed like the son, Donald, he kind of caught it on the tail end. And he just saw, from what I can understand, he only saw the very last part.
So he knew for sure.
He knew for sure 2 men were on the ground dead. There was an axe. That's it.
Yeah.
And that this man was coming towards him with said axe.
Yes.
That's all that he was really able to say. And his mom was kind of the same way. They didn't really know what was going on and kind of until all the commotion.
They didn't see all the action.
Right. So justice was on the side of the murdered men. And McLean was tried, convicted, and sentenced to death almost instantly. So
to be hanged by the neck until dead?
Yes. So the murder happened in March, and James McLean was hanged on August 28th of 1807 by Sheriff Benjamin Barton. It was the first public execution in Genesee County. The Genesee County website states, quote, "A great crowd from all parts of the county attended the public execution on August 28, 1807.
Of course they did.
It was reported in the newspapers that when the weight fell, the rope broke and McLean fell to the ground.
Oh.
He soon recovered from the shock and, rising to his feet, expressed a strong desire not to be hung again. Some insisted that one hanging was a fulfillment of the law. Others, however, thought differently and informed McLean that, quote, as he had killed 2 men, he ought to be hung twice.
There you go.
So the county clerk was dispatched by the sheriff for a new rope. He soon returned with a, quote, trace rope, which I guess is another one, sufficiently strong, and after a considerable delay, the miserable culprit was again mounted upon the scaffold and launched into eternity.
Launched into eternity.
Yes, that was from the newspaper.
So what I was going to ask was the first rope, because he sounds like he was a pretty big man, so maybe the rope wasn't strong enough?
And from what I saw, they said that a trace rope, which it's spelled TRACE, but also tray in different ways that, in different languages, tray could also mean 3. So it could be like a 3 rope. Does that make sense? Like 3.
Yeah, like a tri rope.
Like a tri. Yeah, that's kind of what it sounded like to me, that it was a much thicker, more substantial rope that they brought. Yeah. So a further note, William Keyes was paid $8 and 25 cents by the county supervisors for building the gallows, and 8 gallons of brandy were supplied to the guards. I mean, it's a lot.
Yeah. Yeah.
It's a pretty good bit.
How many guards were there?
Like, they didn't say. So
were there 8 guards and they each got a gallon?
Still a lot of brandy.
I mean, I'm saying that is a pretty good bit.
Not enough brandy to remember you hung someone, but So there we go. Although McLean was not tried for McLaughlin's murder, the McLaughlin family did have some satisfaction that the second hanging was really meant for McLaughlin.
Right.
Several sources like to note that McLean was actually the uncle of Alexander McLean, who was a member of the police force for many years in that county. And he actually served as the police chief of Rochester at one time after this. So McLean's, McLean was related to someone who was a part of the police force.
And it didn't have any bearing on him. That's. I mean,
and I honestly think that a lot of the reason that it didn't have bearing is because he ran, and he was gone for so long.
Yeah,
you know what I mean. It's kind of like, oh well, you're guilty. You ran.
Yeah,
I mean, you ran immediately. So
well, but also, I mean, that could the name could taint if you're in the same area.
Mm-hmm.
You know, I mean, unfortunately, that if you're in the same area, and that's why a lot of people would, especially in that time, would leave where they grew up and start a new life somewhere else where that name wasn't known because, you know, so much was hinged on a family name.
Exactly.
That was such a big thing, you know, family honor.
Well, that's how the Hatfields and the McCoys were. So
Sure.
I know some people who at one time, they are descendants of the McCoy family.
Mm-hmm.
But if you look at their name is not McCoy. So at that time, you could literally move from one side of the state to the other, drop the MC off of your name, and you were considered Coy. You were not McCoy anymore.
I have a friend that I went to school with who was a Hatfield. How funny is that?
That is funny. That's an interesting story. We might cover that once we get into that time period, but that would have to be a multi-parter, probably be a 2-parter because it's a lot. There's a lot that goes along with it. And there was I want to say it was a History Channel 3-part series, 4-part series on them that came out several years ago. Anyways, it was very good. So there's no record as to where McLean's final resting place is located. However, it's assumed that he was buried in the Batavia Cemetery on Harvester Avenue.
He wasn't used for autopsies or anything?
It didn't say that he was used for an autopsy, no.
Okay. I was just curious.
Guess that's just the Irish that they hate that much. But, you know, whatever. Just me. Just me and my Irish roots being bitter.
You? Bitter? Never.
So the reason that they think that it's in Batavia is because the first burial in that cemetery was in 1806. So it was right around that time. It would make sense that he would be there. And a lot of times, a lot of graves went unmarked in certain areas for one reason.
You had to pay for a headstone and such.
Exactly. You know, you had to pay for a headstone. And, you know, I wonder if that'd be interesting. I wonder if there were any laws that said, like, if you were a murderer, you couldn't have a headstone.
Well, in some cases,
because it's hollowed ground.
Yeah, and that was what I was going to say. You know, sometimes that was a punishment too. You would be on in an unmarked grave.
Well, because with Purrington, they buried him in a hole across the street.
Right.
Bye.
Yeah,
that's what they said.
Yep.
So I mean, yeah, it's very much a possibility of that. From what I could find, the old McColl homestead is now considered haunted by some. And superstitious people think that the Scotsmen come back each spring and reenact the murder themselves.
Not cool.
However, upon further research, I did not find any information saying that the McColl homestead was haunted. It would have joyed me immensely to find something that it was haunted, but there are different locations in Genesee County that are haunted or are said to be haunted. But I did find some hope and that there is a farm there, and I didn't found some hope that there is a name of a farm in the area that might have been changed. The name might have been changed from the McColl farm to another family farm if they would have bought it, because there is a farm in the area that's said to be haunted. But I don't know if the McColl family, if that was part of their homestead or not.
That is not my cup of tea.
No. And then I had told you I had a nice fun fact for you.
I love fun facts.
Regarding public executions in New York State at the time.
Lay it on me, sister.
Would you like to take a guess?
Does it have to do with numbers?
No.
Yay.
No math. Would you like to take a guess at who was one of the representatives that had a majority input on public executions at this time?
Should I know this person?
You know the name well.
What year was it?
This was 1807. So, but it was around and before this time. Well, and the kind of 1800 was around the time when they came up with these final execution laws. Philip Schuyler.
Oh, I figured it was a Hamilton-y.
Yes. So he had a say in the public executions in that area.
Because it was in New York.
Yep.
So that makes sense.
Time. I said state representative.
Well, well, I mean, it could have been Burr because Schuyler's seat was up for grabs, so I took it.
I get it, but
I mean, I almost said Burr, but I thought, no. I had to really think.
Oh, yeah. So that's fun. And, that is the official story of James McLean, the man who was hanged twice. So now Leah knows the answer to why you have to hang a man till death.
I mean, because he could have just said, didn't take. Bye.
Well, and a lot of those people said, no. He was sentenced to be hanged once.
And it didn't work. So, hey, God must have meant for him to not be hanged.
So I guess that makes more sense as to why they would say you have to be hanged to death.
Yeah.
Because if you fall,
act of God.
Nope. Not happening. Not in this area.
Mm-hmm.
So what do we think?
But there's a good argument for that, though. I mean, for both sides, like, hey, we went through the whole deal. We did it all. Didn't take. So, I mean, technically, it's been carried out.
Technically by the law.
I mean, to the letter, technically.
If the sentencing did not say hanged to death.
Exactly. So, I mean, there you go. There's that technicality. So, I mean, I totally get it. There's all these, we've worked in insurance, and there are all kinds of technicalities that you can, does it fulfill this specific, not Pacific, because that's an ocean. Mm-hmm. Does it fulfill this specific verbiage that is in the policy? Just like with contracts and with law and with anything like that. What's the intent? What is the specific verbiage?
Which you've got to be, guys, be very careful with what you're signing. I say this because my boyfriend got a new job recently, and really excited for him. It's really good stuff for him.
Very exciting, very good stuff.
So he told me, he's like, God, they've sent me so much paperwork to sign. And he was saying stuff here and there about certain things. And I said, well, it should have been in the stuff that you signed. Well, what did it say? He's like, I didn't read it.
Yeah.
I was like, you have to read it. You have to read what you're signing.
Yeah.
You can't just sign. You could have signed away your soul. Like, you don't know. It's like when people always say, like, oh, well, I didn't say that Apple could do that with my iPhone. And it's like, but did you read the terms and conditions?
Did you check? I agree.
Yeah. Did you say that I agree just so you didn't have to read it? Which I'm guilty of. I'm well aware of that. But, certain things when they come along, you got to be real careful about the verbiage and the wording of things that happen. So there's a certain term, I believe it's caveat emptor, which is buyer beware. So Alabama, which we are from, as y'all know. Hi, if you can't tell.
We don't sound like it at all.
Alabama is considered a buyer beware state in real estate. And essentially what that means is that as a buyer, it is your job.
Responsibility.
Yes, it is your responsibility to do all the research before you buy this home.
Did somebody die in this home?
Yes. And in the state of Alabama.
Is this home haunted?
Mm-hmm. In the state of Alabama, you are not required to disclose if anyone has been murdered or died in the home, unless you are specifically asked by the buyer of the home. The seller does not have to disclose this information. Sometime it cannot be a good thing. My mom, I've told y'all before, my mom works in the real estate industry, and in a house that we lived in when I was in high school, there was a man, unfortunately, down the road who decided to end his life on his own accord. And the house went up for sale not long after that. And I asked my mom, I remember going by the house, and we saw a lot of construction crews there in and out for a little while. And it was probably 6 months after that the house went on the market. And I remember looking at my mom, and I was like, Mom, isn't that the house? Like, that, because it was right near us, like just down a block or so from us. And I remember one of my mom's friends, I'm pretty sure it was one of her friends, had mentioned something about going to show the house. And my mom was like, you know what happened in the kitchen, right? Because, and that's, my mom's been in the industry for a very, very long time. And she has also helped some people find houses that are of other religious backgrounds than we are. I'm not going to say specifics because I don't exactly know what they were. They could have been Muslim, could have been Hindu, could have been somewhere in that realm.
But you're not sure which
right. I'm
one
not
it was.
sure which one it was,
right.
so I don't want to say. But they were very specific about the type of home that they wanted. It needed to face a certain direction. It had to have there were so many different things about the house that had to perfectly fit in order for it to be a home for them. And some people might think that that's odd, but because of their background and because of their religion, that's what they were looking for. So
it was important to them.
Right. So what's important when looking into laws and looking into what you're reading, what you're signing, and what you're saying is that if you have someone like that who is, say in my mom's position, and they don't want to live in a house where anyone has even died, whether natural causes or unnatural, and you know that about your client, it's your responsibility to ask, has this happened? And, I'm not going to lie, I knew this law. So obviously, when I bought the nice little house that I'm in now, the woman previously who owned this home, she did pass away. And
in this home?
No. I asked because, and it wasn't in a bad way, but I knew that she had fallen and how she was elderly. I knew that she had fallen, and I believe she hurt herself in some way very severely and ended up having to be in assisted living for a time. And I think she died pretty soon after. I don't think it was, we didn't ask real big specifics because the grandchildren were the ones that were selling the house.
Aww.
And yeah, they were very sweet though. It was a very, very sweet family. And she actually, my house is kind of newer. It's probably about.
She couldn't have lived here long.
This house is 20 years old now. And
really?
Yeah, it doesn't seem like it. Even when the inspector came and inspected the home, he was like, I would think that this house was brand new.
Yeah, really.
But no, it was, she took very good care of it. And so did the children. And, but she lived in it ever since, it was first built. And so I was like, she's got some strong connection to that house.
Yeah.
It's, she's been there a hot minute. She's still going to be hanging around. Like, I just need to know if I have a guest or not. Like, how do I need to approach this? Because, me and Betty could be real cool. That was her name, was Miss Betty. It's like, me and Betty could be real cool. Or we could not. I just need to know how this all happens.
Well.
But that is something you've got to be aware of. Those things in any state, you need to be aware of what those laws are. Well, we know someone else who did purchase a home that a tragic situation happened in, and they did not know until the day they closed on their house. And it was too late. And it was a very tragic situation. And so it's one of those things of like, be aware, like ask all your questions.
Well, my home, we are only the third owners of our home. Mm-hmm. Our house was built the same year that we were born. My husband and I are the same age. We're only the third owners of it.
1950.
Oh, that's hateful. My parents are that old. That was hateful. Anyway.
Leah looks really good for her age, guys. She's getting up
there. I look really good, period. Just stop there. Anyway. We do know that the original owners that bought the house, we do know that he did die in our bedroom.
You haven't seen like a shadow standing in the doorway or anything, right?
No.
Y'all not stirred up any spirits there?
No. Okay. But I will say that my husband has a coat rack in the doorway of, we call it his room. It's his office computer room, and it's Michael's room. Mm-hmm. He has a coat rack, and he has like a beanie sitting on top of it with coats. And so I've had to like rearrange those because when I come down the hall, it's across from our bedroom. And I've stopped a couple of times and looked just because it's like somebody standing there out of the corner of my eye, and I've had to rearrange it. It could have been,
and then when you looked back, he was gone.
No, it's just the coat rack.
You don't know?
But yeah.
Just saying.
He passed away in that room.
It's be aware of these things, guys.
We know the family that.
Yeah, that's true.
We know the family. It's all good.
But, when you get into contracts and you get into laws and you get into sentencing and you get into all these things, there's so many specifics as to like, hey, this needs to happen. And that's probably why, like your question that you had asked before, that is probably exactly why they had to make a I don't want to say amendment, but had to make a point to say you will be hanged to death. Like, no choice.
Well, and there's always a reason for all the warning labels on things. There's a reason for those. Which, I'm just saying, some of the warning labels.
Take the warning labels off and let the world sort it out for itself. When I look at a chair and I look at the bottom of the chair and it says, do not sit on this side.
Oh, my.
You know what? It's like, oh my gosh, what's that guy? Here's your sign.
Yeah,
like
Jeff Foxworthy.
God, I love Jeff Foxworthy. Like that's it. Like some of these things, it's like, now I will go ahead and put out there the story that a lot of people like to bring up with that is the McDonald's coffee woman. If you knew the details of what really happened,
it was bad. It was warranted.
It was third-degree burns.
Yes, and McDonald's had been warned. There was a precedent there. The water was too hot, and so that was kind of like.
And in their minds, what they were saying is people don't drink the coffee immediately. So in their head, it was like, if we make it hotter, by the time they go to drink it, the coffee will still be hot.
Right.
But they were already given multiple warnings that was not okay. And
no, she shouldn't have put it in her lap.
But this was also a time when cup holders were not standard in cars.
This is true. There are.
So it's like, it's one of those things of like, that
they had been
should
warned.
Never be that hot. It should. She had third degree burns.
Like had to have skin grafts. It was bad
in that area.
Absolutely.
And McDonald's is like, I think she asked them for like $50,000 originally,
and
they were like,
pay for her medical bills,
and they were like, no,
yeah.
Well, now how much do you have to pay, guys?
Here we go. You're gonna learn today.
So, some instances, like, yes, you should know, like, there should be a warning on it. Like, hey, don't turn the air can upside down or it will turn to ice. Yeah. But that's always been fun. Anyways.
But you know what bothers me so much on all of these medicine commercials? Do not take if allergic to this medication.
How am I going to know?
No, but
I love the side effects list. And then it's like,
You'll feel so much better, but it may cause diarrhea.
It may cause diarrhea, headache,
from your eyes. I mean,
blurred vision, dizziness. Do not operate heavy machinery such as a car. Could lead to cancer, lymphoma, or death. It's like,
but you'll feel so much better.
I'm good. I'm a pass.
Yeah.
But thank you. Thank you for the offer. I just, warning labels, they always get me with warning labels. Yeah. They always crack me up. And it's always funny to see like what warning labels come on what. Like hand wash only. That's just instruction. That's not a warning.
No.
That's just something you should probably do. But I can't.
Plastic bags, warning, not a toy. Really? It's not a toy?
I love Target that puts on the side of theirs what else you can use it for.
Kite.
Yeah, it's like cat litter. I'm like, true. Not wrong. That's so funny. Oh, goodness. So, yeah, now we know why you have to be hanged to death.
Absolutely.
Now we know. So, we now have a website, guys. Yay! You can find all of the ways to follow us and contact us and reach us and send us a pigeon on our website. That website,
or an owl.
Or an owl. We would love to get an owl. Only if it has my Hogwarts letter. So that website, super easy, onenationundercrime.com. Simple as that.
You can long, but
well, One Nation Under Crime. Name of the show. onenationundercrime.com. You can still follow us on Instagram, on Twitter. The only difference is our Twitter is at ONUC Pod. Facebook, we do have a Facebook page now since the last time we spoke, I believe. But we have that. You just search for One Nation Under Crime. If you love our podcast, recommend us to everyone you see, literally everyone you see every day. Just yell at them. It's fine.
In the grocery store.
In the grocery store, just...
I mean, I don't know if you're...
No, just anybody you walk down the aisle. Like, be that person that they're like,
don't be that person.
Don't go down the bread aisle. She's there.
Yeah, but I mean, like, make conversation in the grocery store aisle. I did that today. I brought Kayla a treat because she may have just celebrated a milestone birthday. We won't discuss which one, even though she rags me for being old. Whatever. I made conversation with a nice little fireman guy behind me, and we discussed. And I could have told him that I was on my way to record the podcast. I didn't. But anyway, just make conversation and say, hey, you like true crime? I've got this podcast for you. Yeah, so do that.
Yeah, always. And leave us a review on Apple Podcasts. I know some people may not listen on Apple Podcasts. We do actually have several listeners that listen on Spotify and different things like that. But if you do listen on Apple Podcasts, please, please, please only leave us a 5-star review. If it's anything less than 5, you may keep it to yourself. We don't need that negativity in our lives, and I don't claim that sort of negativity. So
we'll take a 4.
No, 5 only. Only perfection. It's all right. But if you would leave us a comment, SCD. Yes, if you do leave us a comment with it as well, that also somehow helps more. But with the way that Apple Podcasts works, the more reviews you get and the more visibility your podcast gets, and the higher up we show in search results. So, just one of those weird things. We have a Patreon. If you would like to help with the cost of hosting and making the show, you can find us there. If you have any questions, anything, go to our website. All of our info is there. You can actually send us, you can leave us.
Not all of our info. Some things need to be private.
A lot of it's there. You don't know what I put about you on there.
Oh no.
You can actually, there's like a submission thing that you can fill out on there and ask us questions. You can leave us a voicemail on our website. Like, you can leave us a voicemail. So just let it be nice. I'm very sensitive, even though I don't act like it. So yeah. Thank you guys for listening to another week of One Nation Under Crime. We are heading into the double digits, guys. Woo-hoo! This is so exciting.
Very exciting.
We will see you here, same time,
different crime,
next week. And remember, there isn't always liberty and justice for all. We will see you guys next week.